Have you ever been so affected by fear that you lost touch with what the truth was? Do you know how to find your way back to what is true when you are overwhelmed with anxiety and fear?
Welcome to the Angelscapes podcast, where you're encouraged to uncover and develop a direct connection with your soul's power, wisdom, and spiritual intuition that is ready to blossom. We'll explore new ideas, compelling tips, and real steps to help you learn simple spiritual practices. We're a safe place to learn more about accessing your soul's power with education and spiritual wholeness that could bring more clarity to your life. Now here's your host, a practicing medium, Akashic Records practitioner, spirit artist, coach, and mentor, Dr. Reverend Nancy Smith.
Hello, this is Angelscapes. I'm your host, Nancy Smith, and welcome to the Angelscapes podcast. Joining me in this session is Reverend Mary Digiovanni. She's the pastor of the Greater Boston Church of Spiritualism, and together we're discussing the collective energy of fear and the lies that support the fear. We also are going to discuss strategies for getting out of the fear so that you can grow, learn, and see clearly. We are creating our own reality, and this truth is based in the natural laws that spiritualism holds. So it's better as you create your own reality is to align yourself with the highest source for the best results possible. And we're going to kind of talk about that. Mary's from she's the pastor of the Greater Boston Church of Spiritualism. And they have Sunday services at 10:30 every Sunday morning. It's held at until the summer. They take a summer break. They're held at 19 Academy Street in Arlington, Mass. And you can look them up again at the Greater Boston Church of Spiritualism. And she is she began her spiritualist journey through the National Spiritualist Association, and then she joined the American Federation of Spiritualism Churches in 2014 and became an independent spiritualist. She made her church into an independent spiritualist church. This will all make sense later, but she with two other churches created an affiliate. It's called the Affiliate of the Spiritualist United Network. I can talk. And so she has a great, huge history of spiritualism and moving it forward. And the philosophies that she has are very powerful. So that's why I thought this would be a really good topic to talk about. Welcome, Mary.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always fun to be here. I love to just chat with you, Nancy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the best information comes out when you're chatting.
Yes,
Um,
it does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I learned a lot of my family history when we sit around the table when I was little, and they would have coffee and beer. It was coffee and beer, and I got to know more about my world and where it came from. And anyway, so relax. And we were when before we started, we got into a big conversation about what's happening in the world right now. There's a lot of fear about a lot of things. You could go political, but that's not so much where we're going to go. You could go global, you could go economically, you could go world changes, weather changes. It's a lot happening, and fear gets a hold of us. And sometimes the fear we were talking about, I love how you say in church, false evidence appearing real. But
Well, fear does grab hold of us, and it's everywhere.
it does
You know,
everywhere.
you have to pay attention to what you're letting in, because what you're letting in is either going to bring you into a place of fear and worry or a place of love and peace. And we're a choice what we're going to choose to be every day. And that's what I love to teach people. You have a choice every day what you put in, and it's going to come out. If you bring in fear and
Yeah,
worry, you're going to
yeah,
be in anxiety mode.
right.
And what do you do then? Where the world is filled with stress. People are lost in their stress and their fear and their worry, when really we need to choose to be in the peace within ourselves and
Exactly.
to connect to the source, to be aligned with infinite spirit. Bring that source of light and love and peace into our hearts every day before we start our day. Set our intention of who do we want to
Yeah.
be. And
Yeah.
then whatever you put in to your mind will feed that. So you want to find inspirational things that lift you up instead of sitting in front of the TV news or watching the social media where you don't know what to believe. I have reached the point where I don't believe anything I read on social media
Yeah.
because you never know with the algorithms that feeds you what they think you want to hear. I don't want that. If I want to know the truth on both sides,
Yeah.
and I find that you can't come to the truth anywhere. You can't really understand what's going on.
No,
So
you can't. Yeah.
why feed that into if I feed that into my morning, then I'm stressed in the day. And I'd rather just sit with infinite source and bring that peace into my life and go about my life looking at the world that I see with my physical eyes and what
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel with my energy.
Well,
You know?
you were talking about that working with spirit, work going to that higher the light or the higher power. But we were also talking about but then you also have to be aware of what's actually going on as well.
Yes,
Like
you
you gotta
do.
know.
You can't be, yeah, you can't stick your head in the sand. You have to be aware, but I think it's hard to know where to get the truth
Yeah,
and to try to get both sides of things before you just jump
jump in.
into a
Yeah.
decision.
Yeah.
And I like to go up to source and say, this feels right to me. Is this okay? Or this doesn't feel right. You
I mean,
know,
and you said in the conversation you were saying you went to spirit and you were one particular maybe a series of things that were troubling you, like
Mhm.
all of us. And it's spirit. You went to spirit, and after a time with sitting in that power, it came. Everything is working out together for the highest and the best. And you were saying, really, how's that?
How can that be? But we can't see it.
We can't see.
And that's the key. We can't see the whole picture. And if we rise up, we connect to spirit and we sit. Spirit can see the whole picture. They may not show us the whole picture, but they can let us know it's all going to work out. Things work out for the best. And I remember hearing a long time ago, anything that is not for the highest good holds its own seed of destruction within itself.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I always come back to that because, we count on natural law. Things work in the appropriate way. Things always, what goes around comes around. What we put out into the world comes back to us. We can't change that. That's natural law and it will always be. So when we recognize if people are doing things that are destructive, then that destruction comes back from within themselves.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, if that's what's leading them and fueling them, well, it's what will destroy them as well.
Yeah.
So the highest good will always be achieved. And oftentimes it comes through pain, and when you look back in history, all the horrible things that we've learned from, that we choose not to do again. And I think a lot of things now are bringing up in people, well, this happened in the past. We can't stand for that. So
Right.
hopefully people will stand up for what is right. We can't have people knocking down doors and dragging people into the street with masks on. That's not this country. So it
Right.
creates fear in the masses,
Oh, yeah.
but and people have to stand up and say, no, that's not allowed. The courts have to stand up.
Yeah.
Judicial system, the people that we have put in place for our representatives and the people we've elected into office need to
Yeah.
stand for what is right, for the highest good, for the good of the people.
Yeah.
And we have to trust that that will be the more things that come up that are upsetting, wake people up.
Yeah, I had this sense of that too, watching different things of the You know, the great sequoia trees, went out there and saw the big tree forests. They're huge. Those trees, you can run a
Mhm.
car through them. And in order, they're pine. They have little pine cones. They're all closed up, but they're teeny tiny for compared to these giant trees. Well, the only way for those pine cones to hatch, or that's not the right word, but open up, the seeds come out of them, is in forest
Yeah.
fires.
Really?
They have to have a big forest fires, and the way that the sequoia trees are built is like they're this big sponge. Their bark and their inner bark, they have the outer bark, which is very rough, and the inner bark is really wet. It's like a sponge. And
Wow.
so they live through these forest fires, and then the
And the seeds grow
seedlings
more.
come open. And I was
Mm.
thinking, we are just in the biggest forest fire ever. And so allegorically speaking, if you watch nature, we talked about natural law, in order for something to come forward, sometimes it needs to suffer or endure or to change what
Right.
it needs to
Yeah.
change. And we've been talking for ever since I can remember going through government classes or going through. I don't think I knew much about the warming until I was in college. The earth was warming and the pollution was. I knew pollution was bad. I knew about the greenhouse effect, but I didn't. How can I say this? You and I, because of our age, have been watching many things unfold over many years. And to come to this point where we see the tipping point of life being changed the way it's never going to be the way it was when we were younger.
Yeah.
Um, I think that that is very fearful. It's the fear of the change. And to me, the big challenge is not to let that suck me into a rabbit hole, but to tell me, I tell myself, we're going into a new era. We're going into and a new place of having to learn to live differently, and
Mm.
we're going
Yeah.
to be okay.
I
We're
think
very,
we have to be accepting of that.
yeah,
We, at our age, we have to be accepting that things are going to be different. I think of how my mother felt, when the VCR came out. She couldn't figure out how to push those buttons. And now I look at the technology we have, and today it's all about AI and all these things that we have, that the world is changing. It's evolving to exist in a different way
yeah,
that we know that we were used to.
yeah,
So I think we have to just sort of go with the flow and trust that
yeah,
the world is evolving, things are
yeah,
changing, and hopefully it is all for the better. But it's going to be different from what
different,
is our comfort zone, and
yeah,
we're going out of our comfort zone in a lot of things.
yeah, and
Um,
yeah, we
we have
are.
to,
And
yeah,
yeah, yeah, if you and there's I when I think of comfort zone, I just think of I want to go back into my house, sit down and shut the world out, which I really have been trying to do really hard. But the you said you didn't know what's truth, and I'm right there with you. I don't know what's truth,
yeah,
but I do know when a relative that lives down in South and they've been wiped out. That's truth too.
yeah.
And living with that. Not making a story from it of apocalyptic stories, but seeing, oh, this is different and we have to do something. Reminds me of, and this is a really good place to implement this, the fifth agreement with Don Miguel Ruiz, um, to see things as they actually are, not to see the story that they are, I
Mhm.
think can get you out of the fear a little bit. And to see how is it connected to our soul's growth, how is it connected to humanity's growth. So humanity, needs to grow and develop and change. And I was thinking the other day, I was wanting to know your thoughts on this because I've been thinking about this for a lot, this whole big issue of immigrants, right? and
Mhm.
and and so I put that thought of immigrants, they're not Americans. Well, I mean, for God's sakes, we're immigrants, we're all immigrants. So we're going to throw these guys out because, and I was thinking of the Japanese people during World War II and the encampments, but but then I started to look at the oceans rising. If you go to National Geographic and you look at and they read the science channels, do you believe them or not believe them? Because some people just don't want to believe them. On the other hand, if you go to Boston Harbor, when the high tide comes in, it's covered with water now. The harbor is. Some parts of the wharf, there's that old wharf. It's covered with water now. So where am I going with this?
Mhm.
There's going to be a lot of refugees within the next 10 years
Well, yeah, going
as the
forward,
ocean,
there will be.
as the ocean
Um,
rises. And so if we don't,
within our own country,
yes,
within our own country, there are going to be
yeah,
places that will be uninhabitable.
right,
Um, it's hard to think about how all the changes that will happen with the earth and within this country and around the world. And that's why we need to get back into the understanding that we're all one. We're all one family of humanity.
yeah,
It really shouldn't matter what country you're from.
yeah.
We need to find that oneness of being, that we're all part of each other. We all
Yeah,
come from the same source. We all hold that divine light within us. And it doesn't matter what color of skin we have, what our nationality is. We're all the same inside. We're all light.
yeah,
And
yeah,
when we stay connected to that
yeah,
light, when we see the true being within every human that we see, we look for that light. We look for that God source within
yeah,
every individual, and that helps us to be more compassionate, more understanding, more loving. And when you see
right,
people who aren't living um, in the best way and treating
yeah,
people the way, you have to pray for them
yeah,
because
you do,
imagine how
yeah,
sick that poor
yeah,
soul is.
I know,
That
yeah,
soul is lost in that negativity and that darkness. And, we are all healers on this planet. We heal light,
right,
and healers need to work and they have to come step into the dark to be the light.
yep,
We don't come to bring light to light. We come to bring light to the darkness
right,
so
yeah,
we can
bring a
illuminate the whole
balance,
world,
yeah, bring a balance,
and create that peace wherever we are. So
yeah,
I always go back to how can I be the light in this situation? How can I see the world through the eyes of God? Let's see this person through the eyes of God, because we know God loves everyone, even the worst being on the planet. The infinite source doesn't have judgment, just loves us all through the crazy things we do. The creator created us. We're creating the reality.
yeah. We
We
create
create it.
our
Yeah.
reality, and
So
that's
we're
the thing.
creating
Yeah,
this mess. We have to fix it through our
yeah.
creations, right?
Yeah. Well, the creation to me, so I'm gonna, I'm rocking around the world trying to fix things that are totally out of my control. But
Mm.
what I'm fixing, truly, what I'm healing is, and you are too, is to elevate the from fear to love, and that
Yes.
it's not fear to superpower; it's fear to love. And I feel
Yeah.
like that's the transition that spirit wants for humanity is
Yes.
to shift from that. So if we
And
let,
we can only do it for ourselves.
yes, oh well,
We
that's
can't
it,
do it for
yeah,
anybody else. It's a personal choice to choose love in each moment,
right,
to choose to be the vibration of love, to radiate that frequency out into the world around you. And it does make a difference because people are affected by the vibration and the frequency
oh
that we
yeah,
put out.
yeah, they
So
are,
by fixing ourselves, by paying attention, living consciously within ourselves, bringing that light into every moment, then we are helping the world. We're doing our part. It says in our healing prayer, and I will do my part. That's my favorite line.
yeah,
I will do my part, and my part is to be the light, to stay consciously aware and connected to infinite
yeah,
source, and bring that light wherever I can, and relax.
yeah,
Spirits are relax.
relax, very,
Because
very much relax,
you're in charge of your perception too. How are you going to perceive this moment? Are you going to perceive this as something you can learn and grow from, or
right,
something to run away from, or something to be afraid of? I keep feeling like spirit just wants us to be at peace within ourselves so that we can bring that peace into the world. If we don't have it, we can't create it.
yeah, you
And
can't, right, right, you can't, no, you can't create from fear. as you're in fear, you're creating from fear, and that's the paint pot you're working with. Those are the images that you're creating, and that's where you'd have more of it. But if you could
Yeah.
take your time,
If you're creating from fear, you're just feeding it, fueling the fire of what you're afraid of.
yeah, well, and you're
Years
feeding,
ago, I heard if you're so fearful of something, you will bring that to you just so you can get out of the fear. If you're so afraid of something happening, you literally draw it to you energetically to happen so that you can stop being so afraid. And do we really want that? No. And I
yeah.
read that many years ago, don't even know where. And I thought, I'm letting go of fear. I don't want to be, I'm not living in fear anymore. I don't want to bring it to me. Right. I don't want to fuel the fire.
Well, there's a thing that going into the spiritual world or the intuitive world, I've noticed that some people will take that, and we all do it as you learn to be more intuitive. You first thing that you vibe into is all the things that are going to go wrong or all the fearful things. There's a lot of spiritual old spiritual teachers that have a lot of apocalyptical prophecies, and here we are, and this is what it's supposed to all happen, and walking into it with that fear, it is not helpful. So I would say, oh, that's what they said 200 years ago, but I'm living the best I can. I'm living my best life now. All bets are off when we ground ourselves, center
What do they
ourselves.
say? A failed prophecy is a good prophecy.
Yes, I like
Right?
that saying.
You
I'm
don't
writing
want
that one
to
down.
bring a prophecy forward of something negative, then we have a chance to change it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Doesn't mean you're stuck with it. I mean,
Yeah.
we have a choice. So,
So, yeah.
um,
Yeah. It's important not to confuse fear with intuition.
yes,
You go into fear, you go into more fear, you go into more examples of this horror, and you never reach God. You never reach source. You never
mhm,
reach that place of, oh, there's another way. There's a brighter
yeah,
idea.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's what the point is. Fear feeds fear, but love feeds creativity.
right.
You know.
Right. And you have to stay in tune with your own heart,
Yeah.
like really bring things into your heart. How does this feel to me? Does this feel real? Or is this just me picking up fear? There's so much fear we can pick it up in the collective consciousness and, we feel out of whack and we go, is that me? No, it's what everybody's feeling around us.
Yeah.
And we have to know that it's not us, it's just the collective all
Yeah.
responding
Yeah. Yeah.
energetically. And that's when we send light, send love instead of taking it in and being out of balance and out of whack. We
Yeah.
just focus on the light within and send it out so
Exactly.
that we're at peace and we can then do something about whatever it is going on. You can't have clarity if you're in fear.
Well, no, you can't, and you're not learning anything, and you're not growing when you're in fear. You're in the fight or flight. You're in the like, well, do I leave? Do I go? Do I freeze? Am I going to live? Am I going to die? And there's no creativity in there. It's just
Right.
all hormonal stuff. And there's a story. I think I told you about this. Is there was the 7 elements needed for a miraculous healing. I don't have them in front of me right now, but this one woman who practiced that was out camping one time, and one of them was just knowing that there's nothing between you and God. There's nothing between you and love and source. And it's like when we sit in the power, when we're meditating, we're with source, and that's nothing else but that. It's beautiful. And then from that place, we that's where we create from. Well, she was out camping and doing her practice, and she stayed in her practice. She sat down to have breakfast at the camp table. Lots of people were there, and this father-daughter team came over, and they were just crabbing at each other and fighting and bickering. And she could have gone into, you're ruining my morning coffee. I wanted to have a peaceful, I wanted to hear the birds sing and all. But instead, she stayed in that place of love, and it just imagined this wave going out from her, and she just enveloped everyone around her in that love. Didn't say a word, just sipped her coffee and ate her oatmeal, and she noticed after a short bit of time, a couple of minutes, that the father and daughter started laughing and they started talking to each other. They relaxed.
Magical.
Magical. Not a word was said. On the other hand, so much energy was exchanged that they could not stay in their anger. They could not stay in their destructive behavior.
Right, right.
And
So
that's,
I think
yeah,
the positive energy of peace can overcome any negative energy.
right.
Positive is so much more powerful than negative.
Yeah,
So that if you're in a place with negativity around you, if you can emanate that positivity and that light and that peace, you will change
yeah,
what's going on around you.
yeah, yeah,
It's you know, when we're vibrating in a state of love, our aura field expands and gets so large that we can fill a football stadium with our energy of love. And it affects everybody within that. When we are in a place of negativity, we suck our auric field right in so nothing can hardly get in.
yeah,
There's no power in that negative energy.
no.
So when we expand wherever we are, just walk through a store focused on the light, sending love out into the world around you. And you know that you're affecting everyone in that store in some positive way. And you may never know it, how did you affect every person in the store, but you may not see it, but you know that it's occurring.
Well, you know it's occurring, but I also know it's occurring within you.
Yes.
And so you're walking out of the grocery store. I usually walk out of the grocery store very frazzled, but you're walking out of the grocery store calm. You've gotten
Yeah.
everything that you needed to get, and you've left yourself in a state of well-being. In
Yes.
and that's
Yeah.
what
And
what
hopefully it's received by many other people.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's
And
the
what
way we can
yeah,
change the world.
yeah.
We can't change anybody outside ourselves, but we can change ourselves. I once read, forget where, um, a story about a man on his deathbed saying, if only I had changed myself, I could have changed the world. If I had focused on changing me, I would have changed my family. It would have changed my community. It would have changed my country. It would have changed the world eventually. Instead, I focused on changing the world and nothing happened.
And he was
It doesn't
still unhappy
change
with
me. You
himself.
have to change yourself first. And then that just flows. It's natural. It's
Yeah.
easy. It's not
I don't
hard.
know how easy it is, but it's,
Well,
it's
to
focus.
stay in that place
Yeah.
is not easy. No. To
You
stay
think
in
keep
line amid the
focused. Yeah.
turmoil, not
Yeah.
easy at all.
Yeah.
No.
I think
Very
yeah.
hard.
Yeah. No, it's not. But if you could remember, you created your reality. The story that you're playing around in your head can be changed, and
Mhm.
you can tell a different story. And sometimes it's not a matter of making up a whole new story as much as it is a matter of connecting to what's around you. Like you said, see what you appreciate, see what's around, see what's in your world that you can touch, that you can feel, and what makes you happy, and stick with that. Bring that focus to
See the
yourself.
beauty and see
Yeah,
what all the things that you're grateful for. Gratitude
yeah,
is one of our greatest tools. So when we focus on gratitude, on just being grateful the sun shining today, or you can be grateful for the rain. The rain is falling and feeding the plants. Whatever is going on, if you can just look at what are you grateful for, what's good about now, what's good
yeah,
about this moment, what's good about the world that I see. I used to joke with my father-in-law, used to just watch the news all the time. And I mean, this was years ago, but he had a very poor view of what the world was because all he saw was the negative on the TV. And I said, when I don't watch the news, I go outside and I see the people. I interact with people and I see a beautiful world. I see everybody getting along. Everything is fine. Wherever I travel, everything seems great. So I see a beautiful world. I perceive a beautiful world and I hold that in my heart. You don't. You can't perceive that world because you're limited to what you're allowing in, but also what you're choosing.
right.
We're
Yeah,
choosing to see the beauty in the people that we interact with,
Yeah.
to see the good parts of them, to bring that out of them,
Yeah.
uh, instead of seeing the negative, you know?
Well, that's it's you're reprogramming yourself, your belief systems, your structure that you were taught over and over again. You're deciding that's not working. That's not for me anymore. And
Mm.
when you are in gratitude, that really helps you break that programming. That really said, this is where I really want here. I really want those birds singing. I mean, when I was
Yeah.
little, but my kids were tiny babies, this teething. My daughter was just learning her words, and she would be up all screaming bloody murder, and boy, that leaves you really tired. And so I walked the floor with her, had a baby, and my husband had to get up for work, and I would just walk the floor with her until I was so tired. We would sit on the couch, and I'd wrap us in a big blanket, and she would doze on my chest, and then the sun started to come out, and I start to see the pile of laundry, and I said, oh, I didn't do the dishes last night. So then I started twiddling my hair and going, I should really get up. And one morning she looked at me, she put her little baby hand on my cheek, she goes, listen to birds, Ma, they're really pretty.
Ah,
It's like whenever that's my best memory ever, when I get caught in that whirlwind of not enough or this
yeah,
chore, that chore. I just put this is my listen to the birds.
yeah.
And I feel like we all need to have that reprogramming thing.
Yes, yes, and
Yeah.
that brings you back, because we
Yeah.
can all get carried away in things that are going on around us, and we get carried away with other people's dramas, we get
Oh my
into
God. Yeah.
dramas,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we have to just we need something to bring ourselves back, to remember who we are.
We really
We're
do.
eternal beings, you know?
Yeah, we are.
So,
We
we have to
are. We
remember
forget
that.
that, that because there we are, eternal beings. I wanted to do a quick little thing. I know we talked about this briefly, and I wanted to say something because um, about this. It's like I said programs, and we have been programmed, but and we go to social media or the news or wherever we go to get what's going on in the world, what's happening,
Mhm.
to understand that a lot of the things that we see and do and build our beliefs around are is information that was created to manipulate us.
Yes,
And
that's what's bad.
it's really bad. And this is, and you can, if you go into, I did a little history deep dive for 3 seconds, but uh, you can go back to the beginning of time, and there'd be stories, there'd be bullies, there'd be all kinds of things, fear or superstition or whatever. But more currently was the Cold War disinformation. And during the Cold War, what was happening is they groups of people, this country, that country, this other country, um, finessed this ability to tell stories that were terrifying. And one of them was, the bomb. And so we had that disinformation, and it became a routine. Again, it's like it's still going on right now. And so that disinformation is used in fear mongering in political campaigns for one
Yeah,
party to be more powerful than the other. And then it's used in marketing. If you don't buy this product, if you don't take this drug, all these things are going to happen. So that then can FOMO, fear of missing out, and you're actually taking the information, the propaganda, and looking for somebody to approve or somebody to say it's okay. And
yeah,
you have to own your own self back again.
yes, it is. Yeah.
You make yourself
I've
okay.
reached a point I don't
Yeah.
believe anything anymore,
Right.
because every place is trying to manipulate you into something.
Right.
This side wants you to hate that side. Well, it's crazy. Why should we hate any side? We need to
Yeah.
understand all sides.
All the
We
sides.
can find that middle way. We got to find that middle place where we
Yeah.
come together in cooperation. But the way
Yeah.
everything is set up, that we're separated from seeing all sides.
Yeah.
It used to be the news where you could count on gave you the whole story back in the early days, maybe in the 50s.
Yeah.
They would
Right.
there was integrity, with the news. They reported the truth, what was, and they didn't take sides. There was no bias. And that's what it was meant to be. but everything has changed.
Oh, you learn the power. You learn
That
you
you
yeah.
can't get the truth, and you want to know all sides. I want to hear, there's people that I love and respect that have totally different beliefs than I do, in regard to politics um, and I'd like to understand them. So I say, well, how come you feel this, and try to find that middle way so I can find the positivity in both
Right,
sides.
right, right, right.
It's really difficult in today's society
To
because
do that.
of the algorithms, because the way things are presented, and the news people are afraid to tell,
I know.
report the truth, or they won't get their next byline or whatever. It's really a very strange world we live in.
It is. Yeah.
So, I want to know what's going on in the world, but I try to stay away from um, a lot of the news. And I always say, if it's important for me to know, I will know it.
Yeah, you'll have hopefully you'll
Vera
be
told me
thrilled.
about 9/11. I was walking down the corridor at work, and they said, "Oh, nothing will ever be the same." They told me it had happened, and I wasn't anywhere near communication, but I think if it's something I need to know, I will know it.
You'll know it.
As especially if there's something I can do about it, I will know it.
You know it. Yeah.
I don't wanna wear rose-colored glasses or, put my head in the sand, but I wanna stay in a place of light and positivity and peace, and not fall into anxiety and worry and fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
And unfortunately, it hits us all, and the
Yeah.
only way out of it is to stay connected to source.
Source, yeah. To call source back in, call your soul back in, say it
Yeah,
out loud, guide me to what is true, and ask for insight, and listen until you feel that rise. I often will sit quietly until it occurs to me through spirit. Whatever it is, there'll be not this and not this. Sometimes knowing this side and knowing that side can be very helpful, but sometimes not useful at all because both of
no,
them are misinformed. But
that's right.
and
Everyone's coming from their own
yeah,
closed-minded,
yeah,
opinions on and not having the whole
yeah.
truth.
It's something that we've all learned a long time ago is that in order to you divide people in order to conquer them. You get this people roused up, and you get these people, and they're so busy arguing with each other. You can steal them blind. You can take all their tax money and run away with it. That's
Yeah,
so.
that's the truth.
So
Yeah.
yeah, we gotta stop fighting and get united and
It's a
and
magician's trick.
yeah.
Look over there.
I'm like, and if you're with spirit, if you're with your soul, if you're with your higher guidance, you will not look over there. You're like, I
Yeah,
see what you're doing, and
yeah,
don't rush to the answer. Don't decide you know the story. Don't side with anything, and be quiet and hold
yeah,
that space for truth to come in, and you
yeah.
got it. You will not believe some of the crazy stories that are coming down the pike these days, and you'll see every story has a little bit of truth in it, and you spend all this time getting to the greater truth, but it doesn't matter. What matters is that you're standing in your own truth, your own inner
Yeah,
guidance, and um,
yeah,
hopefully,
and be the creator of who you wanna be in this world,
yeah,
and do your best, do your part.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
you feel like, "Oh, I can't get up and go out there and change the whole world." But I can do my part
yeah.
in whatever that is.
Even like that,
Um,
yeah, exactly right. Like that woman sitting at that picnic table
mhm,
changed that world right there.
yeah,
And if we were
she
all,
did. She changed that area of her world, and that's all we have control over is the sphere of light we are and where we bring it. Um, so we need to do that, and I think we need to do speak up for people who are being, um pushed down. We
yeah,
always have to stand up for what is right, but
yeah,
we stand up from a place of love,
yeah, and
not
clarity.
a place of anger.
Yeah,
If we
yeah,
We stand in anger and fight. We're creating, we're stirring, we're bringing more of that energy to it. We're feeding the fuel that we don't want.
Yeah.
We to
Yeah.
stand up, we're in a vibration of love and peace to bring about something better.
Yeah.
And that's the only way, like Gandhi, in a peaceful way, changed the world, and we have to be able to do things in a peaceful way, not in a destructive way.
Do you think there's something to the truth of seeing something or experiencing something you don't want? You really don't want it, and has can influence you to know what you do want.
Yeah, yeah,
And
that's
sometimes,
true.
yeah. So I mean, but
Oh, I see. I don't want that.
you don't want
Sometimes
that.
we have teachers that
Yeah.
we learn from teachers that weren't so kind, and we say, "Oh, now I know what I'm not going to be."
Yeah, yeah, that was a good lesson. I learned a lot from that lesson. We're not doing that
Yeah,
anymore.
that
Yeah,
see, we learn from everything, and we our greatest lessons come from the most painful experiences
it's true.
because we remember them.
Well, it just occurs to me in this time of fear and change and what's going to happen next and who's telling what who and who's taking all the tax money is what are we learning and what are we going to be able to do when this is over with?
Mhm.
Or when we
Yeah,
bring this to a close because this is not our dream, whatever this is, or maybe there's some
but
things
it's
for,
teaching us something. There's
yeah,
something
yeah,
very important happening,
yeah,
and it's teaching us something. And I keep feeling like we just have to sit back and let things unfold. And as they unfold, things will take care of themselves, literally. Because, like I said before, the seeds of destruction have been sown. So, you just have to sort of wait for it. Things don't happen that quickly. We have to wait for it to unfold completely. And sometimes things are happening to wake up even the um, people with their eyes so closed,
yeah, the
that
hardcore
they won't
cases.
open their eyes to
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
to what's happening in front of them. But
yeah.
sometimes things just have to keep happening to get everybody awake, you
I know,
know.
I know.
But some things happen to bring us together in unity. When I keep going back to 9/11, we were in unity. Everybody came
Yeah,
together in unity,
yeah,
the whole
yeah,
world. The feeling that happened after that, everyone trying to help, everybody coming together. Everybody's hearts were opened and we all felt at one. And it's the worst tragedies bring that about.
yeah.
So, we're going through right now in this country. It's bringing about a change, and hopefully, it will bring us back into a place of unity and harmony
That
because
sticks.
we're
That's
all,
yeah.
yes,
If
we
we lose
all
focus on this, that's what we're going to have. So let's stay focused. That's what I'm kind of hoping.
focus on what it is you want.
Yeah,
And if everyone in this country is focusing on what you want to see and creating peace and harmony within that
yeah,
vision, you know, it's
yeah.
not
So
just about greed
yeah,
and me
yeah,
and me, me, me. We have to
yeah,
come outside of that me, because the highest good always isn't what I
is it?
want.
Yeah, it's you've got to learn and grow, walk through it,
Yes, for
but
everyone.
in alignment with that's the natural law, in alignment with the higher power, so that you're not just willy nilly running around. You know how you want to fix something? You see somebody's life's a train wreck, and you want to go in and fix it. And the more that you work on it, the worse it gets.
Where she gets, because it's not your job.
Yeah, well, and I quit. But really, it is about facilitating the dream, facilitating people's creativity to dream the dream of what do you want that's going to be in alignment to your highest best. If we're
Oh,
working in an alignment to our highest best, in alignment with the source, we're not
mhm.
going to go wrong. The greed
Oh, don't go
stops,
wrong.
the realization of how things are connected grows within us. So when we see people who are like the seven deadly sins are really enmeshed in greed and enmeshed in selfishness and taking things away from people, they're not in their highest best. They're probably
Yeah.
in a ton of pain, and they're probably hurting in
You
the
have to
state.
be really soul sick, and you have to feel compassion for a soul that would be in such darkness,
Right, right, exactly.
So, the best thing is to send them light, pray for them, send them light. And, that's the most we can do for anybody. Send
Yeah.
light and pray for souls that are lost in that
In their
darkness.
own darkness, their own
'Cause
pain, their own suffering.
they
Yeah,
obviously don't know any better. You know,
yeah.
it's like pray for them. And if we pray for them, it picks us up. When we're praying for someone, we stay in that vibration of love instead of the anger that watching the actions create. So we want to pray for people who do harm, because it takes us out of that negative energy that we would be stuck in if we were staying in the anger or the fear.
I
We gotta
agree.
get
I
out of that.
agree. And I also feel like praying for those instead of being angry with them, trying to fix it, we heal ourselves because again, we're creating our own reality. So if we're in deep relationship with hatred and anger, we're
We're gonna bring it back.
yeah, bring it back, and we're in relationship. If that's you're tethered into it, but if you can step back and go, this is my source, not this. This
Yeah,
is my source, and say that prayer. You're not tethered in at all.
no,
We're all connected. We're not getting out of that while we're here as human beings, but we don't have to be tethered into somebody else's nightmare.
right,
Somebody
right.
else's greed or avarice or insecurities. So therefore, I have to get you. This I was in the airport. God, it was yesterday. Was it just yesterday? I was in the airport, and you have to get in those lines. They could check your. They were actually extra um, safety control. They brought in dogs. My bags were sniffed twice. It was just insane.
Mhm.
Anyway, we're in these long lines. Gotta take your shoes off, put everything through the X-ray machine, and this woman comes running up to me. The two lines came together like this, and then you went like that to one line, and she was gonna beat me and get in front of me, and she had a baby in a stroller, and I just slowed right down because that stroller, if she hit me with that stroller, it was gonna hurt.
Yeah.
And she zoomed in front of me, and she success, victory, I beat her. And I'm like, I don't know what you thought you beat.
We're all going through the line.
Yeah, but and her husband and her husband and a little son, I think that she had two other kids and a husband were like, where did you go? She goes, well, you told me we were done. I went to get in line. So they all said, excuse me. So now I'm behind five people. But
Oh no.
but it didn't matter. It's like, and then all of a sudden another line opened up, and I just walked over to that line and went through, and there was no one in front of me. And it was just, I said, this is like life.
Yeah.
And it's staying calm
Okay.
and not engaging with that anxiety of I have to be special or I have to cheat it or I have to get ahead of it or I'm going to miss out on something. Let it go and get into that peacefulness. Good things will come to you. You won't get
We'll
hit
come
in
to
the
you.
shin
That's
by the
right.
stroller, but it's just the need to be special, the need to rise above, the need to not be caught up in the washing machine of all those people around you is
Mhm.
real. It's very real.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And it just brings us back to what choice are we going to make? Do we want to be in that drama? Do we want to play that ego game? I'm
right,
better. I'm
yeah,
more important than you. There's
yeah,
no power in that. Um,
yeah. There's no
there's
point.
nothing to
Yeah,
gain there,
nothing to
right?
gain, nothing at
Nothing
all.
to
You didn't
gain.
get, yeah.
When we're at peace and say, if it's that important for you, go
Oh,
ahead.
yeah,
Be my guest because um, we don't have to play the game.
no.
And they
It's
might think, well,
the-
why do I think if she doesn't think it's important, why do I think it's so important that I get in front of her?
yeah,
Like
exactly.
it helps people take a step back sometimes when you do something like that because they don't even realize they're lost in this race. It's
Right.
a racetrack. Life is a
Yeah,
racetrack. And we're living in stress, 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 stress.
right.
And we don't have to be in that stress. We can choose not to be.
Yes.
And making that choice is, I think, the most powerful choice we can make for ourselves.
I agree. Yeah. And
We
that,
can, at least in a level of peace, whatever's going on in the world, whatever's going on around in our life, we stay in communion with the divine, stay in that place of peace, and make the choice to always come from that place, to always live there. And every time we find ourselves out of it, which we will
yep,
many times
all
throughout our
every
day,
day.
we bring ourselves back. It's just being consciously aware. Oh, I feel disconnected, I gotta connect again. You
Yeah.
know, I feel like we unplug ourselves from the divine's never unplug from us, but we will unplug our
Right,
awareness of the
right, right.
divine. So we just plug ourselves back in, um, and realize, well, it's always there for us. That peace is always there for
Exactly,
us, no matter
exactly.
what's going on.
And that's one of the natural laws is the law of awareness. The law of
Mhm.
not
Yeah,
your when you're following the story, you're not in awareness. And the law of thought,
yeah,
what we think precedes reality. What we think, that's part of what we use to create. And the law of consciousness. I'm just reading off the laws here, but all of those things get you in alignment to the most powerful force in the
yeah,
universe, which is the creator. And
yeah.
if we live outside of the natural laws, then we're destructive, and then it'll come back and bite us in the butt, and then we got to do it all over again.
And
Or
then that's how you learn.
and then you learn.
You know, you learn, you put it out there, it comes back at you. Well, you say, I don't think I'll do that
Yeah,
again. I'm going to
yeah.
do it different eventually. You know, some people are much more bullheaded than
Yeah,
others.
some people get
Right,
it
it
on their
is.
deathbeds, like you said. I wish I had
You
known.
get it eventually.
Yeah,
That's the beauty of natural law. There's no time. It
yeah,
will come back eventually. And it will come back at the right
yeah. It will.
timing.
It will.
So we can just trust that natural law is always at work. And
Yeah,
we don't have to see the payback. We just know it will occur. And it occurs for the highest good of all, even including that individual that will learn from it and grow from it.
absolutely,
No, we
absolutely.
don't. I don't like to say, when we talk about law karma, it's not punishment.
No
Teaching.
teaching.
It's
Yeah,
helping us to experience what we gave out, and then we know, oh, was that good or bad? Like when we go to the spirit world, we're going to experience how we made others feel.
yeah,
We're going to get to feel that.
yeah.
So, as you're walking through your day, do you want to feel the joy and the happiness that you gave to others? Or do you want to feel, oh my God, I made that person feel so bad?
Right. Yeah,
Because you will feel it.
yeah,
You will
yeah.
experience everything that you've had other ways, the way others experienced
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, how would we grow if we didn't know?
Yeah.
If we
It's
didn't
true.
learn, if we
Yeah.
didn't experience it,
Yeah.
we'd never evolve and grow into a greater self.
Exactly. Exactly. True. And if we see somebody going through something hugely negative, they signed up to learn it, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah.
and you have to let them learn it. We can't take away other people's experience,
No.
but sometimes we can lighten the load by being supportive.
Or say no, that is like a little 3-year-old doing something they shouldn't have done. You say, no,
Yeah,
that's not
no,
appropriate. I get that you're gonna do that, and I get that those how you're feeling, but not in my world. And
yeah.
and that's if you've ever been around little kids, you
Which
know.
brings us to setting boundaries and how important
Yeah,
that is in life. That we have to place boundaries to say what we will or will not allow in our life. That's
exactly.
a whole other show.
Yeah, it is, but it's still part of like protecting or a shield of protection, or that honoring yourself, that we are all children of God, that we are all loved by God, and protecting yourself is boundaries are respecting yourself. Yeah, then we gotta do that show. We'll do that show. But I wanted to remind people that Reverend Mary Digiovanni is again from the Greater Boston Spiritualist Church, and she Has the services, when do you stop in the summer for the summer?
We don't have a service over the 4th of July weekend. And
Okay.
the next week we go to Zoom for July and August.
Oh,
And we come
beautiful.
back to the physical space on the second week, right after Labor Day.
Yeah.
No
So,
service on Labor
yeah.
Day weekend
All
either.
right. Okay. Well, this is awesome because you're around more than I thought. But the Greater Boston Church of Spiritualism.com. If you want to be supported in this kind of growth, in this kind of thinking, go to the church, and there are a lot of people that will talk to you about it, or you can listen to lectures, or have the mediumship part of the service, and you'll be supported in this change, which is takes courage, and just keep that focus going. So,
And there's classes, we do an introduction to spiritualism class a couple of times a year, which is a nice way for people to learn about natural laws, a whole week on natural law, and learn about healing and mediumship and what spiritualism really is about, the principles, the history. So it's an 8-week course that usually fall and spring I have it,
yeah,
unless I have a big group looking for it, and then I put another one on. Usually it's on Zoom, so that people can take it from greater distances, but we also can do it in person. We began doing it on Zoom during COVID,
yeah,
because we didn't have another option. And
good,
since then, we've done more. We've done it on Zoom, and then maybe do one or two in the church. So we kind of do the best parts we can. But you can learn a lot about yourself, about what the religion's about, um, and it does help you grow. It helps you look at life in a different way. The more you study the principles, the more you recognize you are a choice. You can choose your perspective or your perception. You can choose what you want to create in this world. We're not victims, we're not stuck. Every day we have new choices. Every day we get up. Who will I be today? Will I be the light? Will I stand true to myself? Will I live with joy and wonder? And we set an intention for that, and we come back to that intention throughout our day as we're connecting to source and trying to stay in alignment. But there's all kinds of tricks and tools that we,
tools. Yeah.
yeah, not tricks, tools.
Well, I like the trick part too. Yeah.
Yeah, that we share to help people on their journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And this is not, you're changing your belief structure. You're changing your programming, I guess I want to say, to live a more
reprogram.
joyful life. And this is a deep shift that if anyone chooses to make that shift, then you need people around you to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a
And you
lot
do
easier.
shift. You do completely shift. And it's not like you have to give up anything. You're in charge of you. That's the
Yeah.
the,
Yeah.
the one thing. Spiritism is the religion of self-responsibility. So you're in charge of you, and no one's telling you what to do.
Yeah.
That we have guiding principles. So when we understand them, we can pay attention to how the universe works, how the laws of creation work, how the natural law is working with us every day. My lecture Sunday, I talked about the whole universe conspires to support you in all that you
I
do.
love that concept. I don't believe it half the time. And I have to remember
It's true. It
it's true.
conspires to give you
Exactly.
what you want, which is what you are.
Yeah.
So it's what we vibrate as. We're vibrating as light and love. The universe is throwing it right back to us. We're vibrating in fear and anger and upset. Well, the universe is going to throw that back at us too,
Yeah.
because that we're telling the universe what we want by who we are.
Yeah.
And when we understand that, we know how we're a choice by who we are, by how we are, what we're vibrating as, what we're thinking, what we're feeling, what we're putting into the universe. That's what we'll get back.
Yeah.
So
And we're
we're
at
a
the
choice and we're in
yeah.
control.
We are, and we're at the place. I want to say that with all of the fear that's going on, we are at the place of miracle because we're at the place of clearly seeing a choice that we hadn't seen before. We only guessed at it, and now it's so clear, and it's getting more and more clear.
Yeah,
And
it is clear.
and
So we just wait for that clarity to reach into everybody, and the whole collective consciousness shifts together,
right, right.
right? It doesn't take every single person. It takes only, I forget the numbers. I think Wayne Dyer published the numbers of how many positive it takes to, no, I can't overpower like billions of the negatives. It takes a small amount of the positive
Oh, really?
and
So a little positive will clear out a lot of negative.
a lot of negative.
Well, that's
Yeah.
kind of cool. That's better odds than I thought.
I have it somewhere written down. I'll have to send it to you. But it's like one person vibrating in the power of love will counterbalance like 100,000
Wow.
negative people vibrating in that negative energy. So
Let's do
it
it.
makes it, you
Yeah.
can see that one person completely vibrating in a place of love can change the whole state, the whole country, if they're strong enough,
That's
in that vibration. And it's not easy to be vibrating at that level all the time. We ebbing and flowing, lift him up, world brings something, pulls us down, we lift up.
yeah.
So, it's a constantly trying to be that light,
Yeah. You
be
said
that place
something
of peace.
beautiful in our conversations about being human and also being the light. How did you say that? That
Um, it was actually a message one of my students brought through from Spirit. And when we're in a full human experience, we're fully divine.
is so beautiful. Yeah.
When
Yeah.
we're fully human, really letting ourselves live as who we are, then we're fully expressing the divine that we're made of, right? Because we're all made from that divine energy. That divine energy just expresses through all of us. So when we're in our full humanity, when we allow that humanity and that spirit to come together as one and really live fully in this world, we are expressing the divine like a tree and a flower. It just is, right? It's
Yeah.
just being the tree or being the flower. And it's completely the tree and flower, but it's expressing, it's bringing that divinity into the world completely without any hindrance, without any blocks. Our ego gets in the way, when we can get out of the ego and simply be in the expression of life, right? And we're expressing divinity in all that we do. And that's where the joy is.
It's
Think about a flower being as free as a flower to share its beauty.
oh, it's
How
lovely.
free that is to just
Yeah. Yeah.
share your essence, yourself, your true self with the world without any fear or worry or hindrance. And know that everything that's emanating through you, it all is flowing from the divinity that lives inside.
And just
Great, isn't it?
uncork it. It's beautiful. Just uncork it. Yeah, it's beautiful. I love that.
We can stay out of the ego and
Yeah.
just let ourselves be who we are,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
That essence, that true essence.
Yeah.
We are before we were programmed.
Yes. Yes, we all got programmed as children
Yeah.
in many different ways, many
Yeah,
different
it's a
beliefs of God.
necessity, but I love this message. It's been a beautiful, wonderful talk, and it's time to kind of end
Wow,
it.
already?
I know.
Oh, it goes so fast.
Bad. And I really hope that the listeners have gotten something to take back with them. Again, look at the Greater Boston Church of what am I saying this right? The
Right about Church of Spiritualism.
This is the Greater Boston Church of Spiritualism. Go to their website. There's on Facebook, and then just find a way to get into the Zoom if you can't make it to Arlington, and just get that support that you're looking for. Get that inspiration that
Yeah.
you're looking for to get in, create something good for yourself during a time of fear. Get out of the chaos, get out of the fear, and go into the love. And that's what the message
And
is.
see all of the wonderful events we're going to be having.
Yeah.
We have a Healing Arts Festival coming up on May 18th. That's a Sunday. We have Dominic Bull coming back to do a mediumship workshop on May 10th. And he's doing a show at the 440 on May 15th. So we have some fun stuff in May that hopefully is on my website. If it's not, it will be shortly.
Yeah. Yeah, so take a look. A lot of Mary brings in amazing people into the church,
Yeah.
and it's always a delight. So for now, I'm going to have you guys kind of think about what we've said and where in your world is there an untruth making you unhappy that you can reprogram, that you can move through it to a better place, and look for support in helping do it. Mary's available. I'm available. Use these tools to create a different world for yourself. And so with that said, go in peace, go in light, stay safe, and stay aware.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you for joining the Angelscapes podcast. We hope you've gained new insights and inspiration for your journey to uncover and access your soul's power. For more information and a deeper dive into finding clarity in your life, go to angelscapes.com. Remember to subscribe so you can be part of the discussion. It may just change your life. See you next time.